We're particularly excited about this report and this data that we're going to be sharing today. It's been a number of years since Massachusetts has done a census of employee-owned companies. The last time it was done was in 2006.
So the Commonwealth has the third largest number of cooperatives in the country, and we've got a long history of supporting and leading these initiatives. And I think, as all of you all know, right, worker ownership, employee ownership has many advantages that we're trying to tap into here. And I think in a time of rising inequity, worker ownership models, employee ownership models are exactly the kind of business structure that we need more of, right, to create wealth, to build wealth, in our communities.
There are 168 employee-owned companies in Massachusetts. This is a number that we feel very, very strongly about.
And I don't want to belabor it, but you all know why this is so important. We have a huge number of family-owned and in particular small businesses across Massachusetts. Senator Sear pointed out on the Cape, his family restaurant. So many hospitality, restaurant, seafood, agriculture businesses on the Cape. In my neck of the woods in the Pioneer Valley, we have a long legacy of precision machining and machine shops, many owned by baby boomers who are approaching or are in retirement age. This is a very important way to expand the pie, to include more people in the ownership of businesses, to help with wealth generation.
The total number of employee owners or people who work for employee-owned companies in Massachusetts is over 19,000. And the total revenue, which is not just not just revenue from activity in Massachusetts, but nationally, is $133.9 billion in revenue.
If you could describe the landscape of ESOPs in Massachusetts.
So in the New England chapter, we have 177 member companies. Service providers are included in that number. Massachusetts, we have 74 members. And we get a pretty good cross-section of the ESOPs that are in Massachusetts, and obviously New England as well. Largest being about 1,100 employee owners, smallest being a couple dozen. You can see how that overlaps the data that Dave was talking about sharing earlier. Most of those are probably a few dozen to a few hundred employee owners.
Very small businesses that are suffering right now. Black and brown communities, low income communities, and I think one really unique thing about the worker co-op community is that it impacts all of those communities, right? The communities that have been most affected, particularly by the pandemic, by a lot of kind of like societal harms, those communities tend to turn to worker cooperatives because they really center worker voice, worker concern, and not just the worker, but the community around those workers.
Their overall legislation to address the awareness piece is authorizing, for the first time ever at the Department of Labor, a 5-year, $50 million grant program, an employee ownership initiative, which would promote employee ownership out of the Department of Labor